Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training. Here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. Hey, if you're a softball coach and going to the NFCA convention, I think there's still time to register for the pre-convention seminar that we'll be doing together if you join me. If you go to ssbperformance.com/blog and click on this week's tip, you'll see a registration link right there. Join me for a 3-hour workshop where we're going to leave with tools that you can implement immediately to help your mental game and the mental game of all those that you lead. So this week, we're talking about what our role is with our parents or as a parent in post-game discussions. So there's this organization that I just got turned on to the other day by a friend of mine called ILoveToWatchYouPlay.org. They've got a great little video there of a bunch of little kids talking about what they want their parents to do at games or after games or during games, and it's really cute. And I took the liberty of cutting it up because I'm going to use it tonight with the parents of the swim club that my son is a part of. We're doing a little conversation on how to help your kids enjoy their competitive experience, there being the operative word. But Coach Sari Hare from BW, our Baldwin Wallace University, showed me this video because she used it with her team. And Sherry's winning percentage is 737. So whenever Sherry talks, I listen. I'm not going to tell you that's what I did in college when I first met Sherry, when she became our basketball coach, but I got smarter over the past 30 years. And she has turned a team into the bottom of the barrel to a national contender every single year. And this is one of the reasons why, because she's constantly learning and constantly thinking of ways to help her players get better. Well, this year, as she approached her parent meeting, she asked her athletes the same questions that ILoveToWatchYouPlay.org asked these little kids. What do you want your parents to say before the game? What do you want them to say during the game? And what do you want them to say after the game? And let me tell you something. Before the game, they don't want much. And during the game, they don't want advice. We know those two things. But here are some of the things that they talked about. Let's see if I can find what those were. They said that before the game, they want just a good luck. During the game, they want parents to cheer on their teammates regardless of how much playing time they're getting. And after the game, they just want to say, hey, good job, let's go get something to eat. Well, that's what they want. But what do we do? Or what do the parents of the kids that you lead do? That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. I am not a parenting expert. I have been a coach a lot longer, twice as long as I've been a parent, maybe even longer. I'm not going to win the Mother of the Year award, but I have spent a lot of time around athletes and performance. So I'm going to stick to my sweet spot tonight. We're going to talk about how the brain is frustrating and helpful. We're going to talk about the power moves, and then we're going to talk about tools that will change the conversations after games or competitions. Because here's what kids really want. They want you to say, hey, I love to watch you play. But how many of you as parents have a hard time sticking to just that? And how many of the parents of those that you lead, that's not their MO either? It's hard, and we know that. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't evaluate and make sure that we're meeting our standards. That's the coach's job. That's our job. But we have a lot of help in that after games. And those evaluations, those conversations, those judgments, whatever you want to call them, those affect confidence, they affect performance, they affect consistency, they affect our mentality. And if we can help everyone around us do a better job of having post-competition conversations, then we're all going to be in a better place for it. Here's how most conversations go, and you know this. Why didn't you, or why did you, or why? And let me tell you something about why. We've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, why blows up our amygdala. We talked about amygdala last week and how that affects, it's our fight or flight, turns us on, boom, we're ready to run, we get defensive, put our dukes up and say, I don't know, it's not my fault, I didn't know, whatever, we get into defensive mode. So that why question is accusatory. It's judgmental. And we've got to shift from a mentality or a system of judgment to a system of evaluation. If we can't, at the end of a game, say, did you have fun? And man, I love to watch you play. If we can't stick with that, then we need to have a better system. And I'm going to give you two options that you can share with all those around you so that hopefully we can all do a better job for our athletes in helping them build their confidence post-game instead of have them constantly think about what went wrong or what they've got to fix, because if we don't do this and we don't do that and we don't do this, we're never going to get here, there, or anywhere. As I said, what they don't want or what they want before the game is not much. What they don't want after the game is advice. They don't want advice. But if we have a hard time sticking to just saying, did you have fun? We can help them. We can shift from why questions to what and how questions. What and how questions turn on our prefrontal cortex. They help us start to think about things and analyze and learn and discover and be curious and look at things in totality or less emotionally than when that amygdala is fired up and someone says, why did you? Think about if you walked in the door every day and someone said, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Even if you were in a good mood, you'd be pissed off by the third or fourth question. But what can we do is a different question than why did you do that? We've talked about could, because, and together before, and you can go back and look at that tip. But we need to have a systematic way to use our words because we know that our words affect our brain, which affects the way we feel, which affects our behavior, which affects our performance. So tool number one, and just as a quick reminder before I get there, if we do a good job evaluating what worked and what didn't work both, that gives us a huge competitive advantage. We have to look at what worked so we know what to do again to help us build confidence, to help us build consistency, to help us build comfort. And then research shows that people who looked at both things, what worked and what they can do better, outperform people by 23% that did not do that, that only looked at what went wrong or only looked at what went right. So this, looking at both makes a big difference, but how we do it matters. Tool number one, well, better, how. The old simple well, better, how. And when I'm working with my teams, we go back to the Lasada line or Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's positivity ratio of 3 things we did well to 1 thing that we need to do better. And that thing that we need to do better needs to be a critical success factor. What is one thing that we know if we change it, it's going to make a marked difference? Then we go to Dr. Ziegler, my mentor from Cleveland State's age-old question of by doing what? How are we going to do it? What did we do well? Why did it work? What worked and why did it work? You can ask that why question. Or maybe you say, how did it work? If you don't want to use why, because I told you shouldn't 2 seconds ago. But what went well? How'd you contribute to it? What do we need to do better? What's that critical success factor? What's the one thing that we know if we can make this change, because we can't change everything. We don't want to change everything. Some things went well. We make this change, and then how are we going to do it? By doing what? What are we going to do? Once we have all of that written out, which we should do, is write it down, this turns into an evidence journal. Now I have a list of all the things that I've done well. Nice, because I'm going to forget those things. Because I don't give those things a lot of emotion. I just say, oh, you know what? It went well, great. That's that. Then I'm also going to have a list of all the things that I needed to improve and a measure and a remembrance and a note that says, my gosh, I needed to do that better. This is what I did. And by golly, it worked. Confidence. I can grow, I can change, I can learn. So this simple, well, better, how turns into a great evaluation tool and an awesome evidence journal. 2 birds with 1 stone right there. The second evaluation tool, because judgment, again, is why. Why'd you do this? We're giving value of good, bad, not good enough, not hard enough, whatever these things are. This judgment is an emotional, almost guilt and shame type of discussion. This evaluation is a place to learn and grow and look forward and take in our training and our talent, pull out the pieces that we want and we need, and then move on our merry way in a better mindset. Tool number 2 is back to the after action review. The questions. What was my intended result? What was my actual result? What caused or contributed to my results? What do I need to do the same? Because we strike out and all of a sudden we want to change our swing. We're going to turn into Cal Ripken and have all kinds of different hand motions, which work for him, but we're not Cal Ripken. All of a sudden now we're going to put our elbow up higher, even though we didn't practice that this week, right? That's what we get into. But what do we want to do the same? What do we need to do differently? Because we probably need to make an adjustment. But maybe it's not a mechanical adjustment. Maybe it's a focus adjustment. Maybe it's an emotional adjustment. Maybe it's a communication adjustment. Maybe we just need to widen our vision. What do we need to do differently? How are we going to do that? We have to have a how. Again, back to the other one. By doing what? And then, what did we learn? So these questions sequentially get us to look for facts. I wanted to swim a 23:01, but I swam a 23:50. Okay. Intended result, actual result. What contributed to that? Well, my start was a little bit slow. Okay. What do you need to do the same? Well, I need to, my getting up on the blocks was good. Everything looked, I felt emotionally stable. I felt, locked in. But I didn't have my feet positioned exactly where I need, or I didn't thrust myself off the blocks enough. I don't know the terminology. I don't pretend to. Okay, what do you need to do differently then? Well, this is what I can do to get, or my underwater needs to be faster, whatever it might be. How are you going to do that? List that. And then what did you learn from this? I learned boom, 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 boom. It's not a judgment. It's not emotional. You're not being accusatory in any way. You are literally taking information from the performance, picking out what worked and taking it with us, looking at what we can adjust, and then immediately making a mental map around what that looks like. Man, what a better car ride home than, why didn't you do this? Didn't look like you were trying hard. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? What did the coach say about this? Whose fault was that? Whatever the conversations are, I know that they're normally not all that productive. And trust me, I fall into that too. My son had a race the other day. I swore he touched before third, but when it came down to it, the touchpad didn't stop. And that is what it is. And I had all kinds of questions about it, but you know what? It does not matter. And I had to keep reminding myself of that. And after the meet, I had to say, I love watching you swim. And even though that's really hard because you have all these things going through your head, there's a better way to get good information from performances that can help the next one. And if we can train ourselves and the parents of the kids that are around us and the kids that or the people that we're leading, kids, business people, whatever it is that you're leading, if we can train people to have a better evaluation system instead of throwing themselves under the bus or judging every single thing that they do with emotion, but looking at the facts, everyone is going to be better. We're going to feel better about ourselves and the people around us because we know the words that we use affect our performance. And these simple switches from why to what questions, moving from just random emotionally driven questions to a system that we use regardless of what happened. Win, lose, or draw, we evaluate the same. I was in church yesterday, and one of the verses they talked about was, give praise continually in all circumstances. And I thought it's the same thing. We have to do things regardless of circumstances. We have to have the same systems. Because if we don't, we upset the apple cart. We're riding on waves like this all the time. And those waves don't usually get us to shore in a secure fashion. We want to ride Yes, bad things happen. We have crappy performances. It's really hard to give praise in certain situations. But if we can stay the course, it's going to be a better experience for everybody. So think about how you evaluate. I love to watch you play. If we can't stay there, then let's use a really good system to help everyone. It'll be better for your relationships. It'll be better for your athletes. It'll be better for their performance. And everyone improves if we can use one of these two tools, if you can't stick to the simple one. So, well, better how? After action review. If you have questions or want a worksheet on either one of those, shoot me an email at juliej@ssbperformance.com. I am happy to ship it off to you immediately. And until next week, have a great week. Have great evaluative, I should say, conversations. Skip the judgments and find out what we need to do to get better so that we can all improve our performance. Have a great week.